Get stuck in. Right this side. Hooray!
The 250 rare and historic vehicles on display in the museum require constant maintenance to keep them in fine fettle.
You ready, Gary?
That's it. Lovely, stay there. Right, you're there, John.
Brooklands is in the unique and fortunate position of having an army of volunteers on hand to provide the expertise and dedication required to preserve these exceptional vehicles.
Check the oil.
Retired chartered surveyor Chris Bound has been charged with looking after one of the rarest cars in the collection.
Well, this is the Alvis front-wheel drive from 1928. Quite an unusual car. This car is the actual one that raced here in the period.
Alvis were a British engineering firm who made aircraft, military vehicles and racing cars. This 1928 model was the first serial production car to utilise front-wheel drive. Of the 140 produced, only 35 remain.
Even as a young teenager, I was playing around with my mother's car and taking the wheels off and see how it worked and that sort of thing. So pretty much self-taught. It's all from my own hands-on experience.
But at a lofty 6'4", the Alvis poses a particular challenge for Chris.
We have a lot of problems maintaining it. It's also a difficult one to drive because the cockpit is so small. Absolutely no hope of someone my size fitting in it.
Something much smaller than Chris has managed to fit in the Alvis, and it's wreaking havoc on the car's wooden chassis. It's become such a problem that Director of Collections Alex
Hello, Chris.
has come to find out for himself just how bad it is.
Let's see if we can see any telltale signs. So...
Lots of dust down.
Oh, no. Look at that. There we are.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
That's where they've really been feasting. Woodworms are museums professionals' nightmare. They're a micro menace to museum objects. They're tiny little insects that bore through wood and can cause utter devastation. Look at that frass. That's a huge amount.
Frass is the dust excreted by this pest after they've made a meal of wood.
What goes in must come out.
Must come out,
and that's the out. In museum objects, you can't treat them with commercial grade treatment because of some of the chemicals in there. So if it's a small object, deep freeze it for 3 days. The temperature, the shock to this system kills them. You can't really put this in a freezer.
Now the other thing you haven't seen, Alex, is this bag of stuff that we took out.
It's all honeycombed. Unbelievable. They have really gone for this. The rest of that has crumbled, and that was all over here. That is prime location for going onto the main frame of the car as well. It's like coming off like Parmesan cheese. It really is.
Yeah.
But not the kind you want to eat. It's just powder. That's not good.
Oh, my word.
At all.
There's more there, isn't there?
There's more. If left untreated, the whole car could disintegrate and you're just left with the aluminium frame, really.
It's not just bad news for the Alvis. Over time, it could spell disaster for the museum's priceless collection of vehicles.
Yeah, we've got to make sure it doesn't travel to other cars as they're timber framed as well, so it is really a bit of a worry, actually.
With Alex about to leave site for a week,
Massive worry. We need to get this treated.
he and Chris agree a plan that they hope will stop the woodworm in its tracks.
It is a concern.
Over at the motoring workshop,
So we're going to have a look at the Alvis today and see how bad this woodworm has actually got.
Chris has called in reinforcements to deal with the woodworm that's devouring the 1928 Alvis. The motoring team coordinator, Debbie Craut.
And now we need to have a look underneath and see if it's spread.
Being the only woman in the motoring team can be enlightening at times.
It can be quite difficult keeping them in line. I mean, they talk about women gossiping, but I've never really known anything like it, you know. They could sit there for hours drinking coffee and just chatting about engines and cars and God knows what.
What you got, Les?
Pot noodle.
Is it hot?
Yeah. If he goes running off this afternoon, we know what's happened.
Yeah.
We've got a straight through exhaust.
You know, I just treat them like a load of granddads, really, even though they're probably not that much older than me.
Today, Debbie has something more important on her mind. They need to find out just how bad the woodworm infestation is, and that means taking the 1928 Alvis apart.
So you can actually see straight away that this is quite bad. There's already some dust along here, and this looks like a dartboard.
Yeah. I'll give it a tap. We'll probably see lots of dust come out, I expect. Oh yeah, just disintegrating, isn't it? Powder just pouring out of the holes. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think that's going to have to be replaced, isn't it? We do really need to stamp on this and eradicate it, because otherwise it's just going to spread to other cars and then we'll have a real serious problem. The plan now is to spray some of this bug killer.
The water-based insecticide will only affect the woodworm if it comes into direct contact with it, so a more drastic solution is required.
So I think it's going to be a fine balance between what we can preserve and what we actually have to replace. The preference is to preserve and conserve the original, but these are working cars and they've got to be capable of being driven without falling apart around us.
It's not like it's a small patch. It's actually quite extensive throughout the car.
But with the outbreak having spread through most of the car, replacing the panels isn't going to be easy.
And this panel is very, very badly eaten by the worm. The car was made by cladding a wooden frame with the aluminium panels. So the wooden frame was made first, and then the aluminium panels were put on top of it. What I'm trying to do, it's a bit like getting a skeleton out of a body without disturbing the skin. And I think what I need to do now is to very, very gently tease this aluminium sheeting up. It can be a bit brittle, and I don't want to actually break this edge. If I give this a good shove, I think this will come out now. There we are, hooray! Look at the state of that. It really is, and I can feel it's just crumbling. Certainly better out than in.
With all the damaged wood removed, Chris needs to make new pieces as close to the original as possible, starting with the biggest, the bulkhead.
So that's the first step, but I'm going to just draw around this.
Wood was commonly used in car manufacturing when Brooklands was first opened. Gradually over time, the wooden parts were replaced by plastics and metals.
Yeah, I think this is sort of starting to take shape.
Some manufacturers like Morgan still use wood to this day.
Voila. We're there. I think that's it. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And then next is the floor of the boot.
With the new treated pieces of plywood fitting perfectly, Chris needs to carefully bend the brittle aluminium back and hope Alex will be happy with his work.
Hello, Chris.
Hi, Alex.
What have you been doing?
Come to see the progress.
Oh my God, what have you been up to?
Director of Collections Alex has returned and is anxious to see how Chris has been tackling the woodworm that had been feasting on the 1928 Alvis. Only 35 of these cars are still known to exist, and this particular racing model is one of a kind. Chris has been desperately trying to replace the infested parts before the woodworm destroys the car and over time potentially spreads to the rest of the priceless collection. And he's hoping Alex will be happy with his rescue job.
She's looking lovely. Well done.
The major thing was getting this bulkhead out and replaced. And then in the boot, the entire floor of the boot is new.
Well, truly a fantastic job, Chris. This is looking really, really amazing, considering where we started from.
Yeah. I think if you're feeling up to it, we ought to let you take it around the block.
Before Alex went away, the car was in such a state that it would have been impossible to drive because the weakened wood would have disintegrated.
Oh. Hey.
Now Chris has worked his magic in replacing the infected panels.
Wow, this is certainly different.
The Alvis is back on the track where it belongs.
There we go. Hey! Oh, that's a bit bumpy. That's an interesting gearbox.
It's good to see it in action again. It's not an easy car to drive. It's pretty tough on legroom as well.
Oh, this is quite good fun.
The car's actually sounding very good. It's even running as smoothly as it ever does.
Still got it. Still got it.
So,
that was an experience. Chris has done an amazing amount of work on the car. It's great to see it back up and alive and running, actually.
It's an important part of the collection here. It's mechanically good, but it's been let down by the wood. We can now run it on the demonstration days and let some people have some pleasure from it.
You know, we're not just a load of static exhibits.